Hello and welcome to episode 18 of Fergo and the Freak. I'm that bloke from Rugby League Project, Andrew Ferguson. You can find me on Twitter at AndrewRLP. And joining me once again is League Freak, who you can find on Twitter at League Freak. How you going today, mate?
I'm very good, Andrew. How are you?
Mate, I'm chirpy as always after
Excellent.
having my solid 4.5 hours sleep.
Fantastic. I get by. I think I'm on my third coffee, so this could be good.
So you're pumped up and firing to go?
I really am. This is going to get me pumped up, this one.
All right, because today we're going to talk about Parramatta. After it was revealed yesterday that from Michael Chammas at the NRL that Brad Arthur is set to have his contract extended for another 2 years as Parramatta's head coach after he impressed the club officials on Magic Weekend where the Eels were spanked 64-10 by the Storm. Now, Brad Arthur has been with the Eels as their full-time coach since 2014. He did spend about six games there as the interim coach at the end of 2012 when Parramatta sacked Stephen Kearney. However, in his time as head coach since 2014, he's been there for 131 games. They've had 63 wins, 68 losses, and 48.09%. He's made one final series. That was in 2017. In 2016, they would have finished 8th on the ladder had they not been penalised 12 competition points for breaching the salary cap. Is this a coach you think deserving of another 2 years?
Hell no. Like, what the fuck are Parramatta doing? This guy has proven to be a 50-50 coach at best, and they're locking him in when there's no demand for him. What the fuck are they doing?
It's one of those things. You hear a lot of teams and players that talk about how they need their coach to, they'll give them all about 3 years. It's 1 year dealing with the squad they've inherited, 1 year to clean them out and build the team they want, and then the third year they're dealing with the team that they've built that they want. He's been past that period. He's a few years past that period, and they're giving him more time.
Yeah.
And I don't see what it is that he's brought to the club and what he's helped them achieve.
I do. Nothing. Nothing at all. They're going to miss the finals this year if they keep up playing the way they are. No team has ever won a premiership after conceding 50 points. They just conceded 60 at a canter. The Storm shut it off. And they, straight away, the very next day, they give him a giant contract to stay at the club so that they can re-sign all of their average as fuck players. It's just stupid. It's madness. What are they doing?
Well, this is the thing. It's been reported by Chammas that Parramatta are hoping, apparently, that Arthur's expected contract renewal will give the club an opportunity to re-sign Clint Gutherson, which he's just been tabled an offer worth $650,000 a year over 3 years. And Parramatta have told him to take it or leave it. You've got to tell us by the end of the week.
They should bite their arm off. He's a reserve grader. I'm sorry. I don't care what Parramatta fans say. If Parramatta fans are impressed by what Gutherson's doing, it's because that they've watched shitty football since 2012. He's just the most average fullback in the NRL. I would take every single fullback not named Darius Boyd over him. He's terrible. Just put him on the wing or something. He's a reserve grader when your main fullback is injured. It's terrible. He's not worth what they're going to pay him.
I was going to say, I've never seen him as a fullback. I think they've put him, I know I said this on another podcast, I think he's a 5'8", but they've put him at fullback so that Moses doesn't have to compete with another player, because Moses likes to have control there, apparently. That's what you hear in the media. So I think he's just there to get out of Moses' way. Mitch Moses, another player who I believe is in contract extension talks with Parramatta at the moment, or is he... If Paul Crawley's to believed, which he isn't, then he's going to Brisbane.
Yeah. Oh, well, here's the thing, right? Let's list all of the winning teams that Mitch Moses has guided around the park.
Done.
Oh, yeah, exactly. What is it about Parramatta that they value losers so much? It's so strange. And they've got all of these players off contract, and they're like, let's lock the coach in so that we can make sure none of our players leave. It's like, maybe you need them to leave because they keep on playing like crap season after season. You need a change. Why are you keeping the same shit in place? It's
Yeah,
it's absolutely crazy. This is a team that even when they broke the salary cap was just okay.
yeah, it's I don't know. See, Moses would be fine in that side if he was on less than half of the money he's being paid at the moment,
hmm
because then he'd be earning his keep.
hmm
But he's just not at this stage. And you can find all the excuses you want in the world. So, the forwards aren't performing well. You've had plenty of opportunity to buy a better forward pack. You've been there 5, 6 years now. Um, but I don't even think the Parramatta forwards are to blame. I think they're doing a fairly decent enough sort of job. So, look, of course, they could be better, a lot better, but they're not the crappiest pack either. So I don't
Yeah.
think Moses is a good excuse there. I think given the forward pack that he was playing behind when he left the Tigers to what he's got now, he's upgraded in that area. So he's got no reason for poor performance
And
at the
this
same
is the
level that he
thing.
was doing all the time with the Tigers, which he's still doing.
Yeah, and the thing about Parramatta is, right, you look through their entire lineup and the vast majority of players, they're all right, you know, but they're committing to these players that are all right and they're getting all right results and they're happy with that. Like, what club is happy with all right? None of them should be.
Yeah, they're sitting in the middle of the road and they're just sort of this will do. Hold the course, Dan. This is good enough.
Exactly, and they're excited about it. Like, what the hell is going on at Parramatta where they've got this beautiful new stadium? They just had another billion dollars thrown into building them a training facility out of Kellyville because we all know that Parramatta has terrible facilities at the moment to use. And they're locking in everyone to, let's go 50-50 for the rest of I don't understand it. And I don't know why any club would want that. Like, who else was going after Brad Arthur? Who were these other clubs that were chasing Brad Arthur? None of them.
No, probably someone in England.
Maybe. He'd be a superstar coach over there, to be fair. I mean, come on now. They'd see him as a revolutionary coach over there. But it's the same thing for Gutherson. Who are they fighting for his signature for? Even if it's just Manly, even if it's just the Manly Seagulls, roll the dice. Say to
Yeah,
him, we're not paying you 650 grand. We're going to pay you 400 grand. That's what we think you're worth. And if you can get better somewhere else, take it. Otherwise, sign on the dotted line. I don't understand why you would up your money to him. These players are so replaceable at Parramatta, or every single one of them. There's no one at that club that I look at and be like, wow, they can't let him go because you don't get talent like that every day. Because you do. You get talent like that every day.
he's like the thing that gets me about this, okay, is you'll see some coaches and you just know that when they've been at a club too long, they can't inspire their players to go to that next level. And it doesn't mean that they're going to be successful, but if you can get your squad constantly playing better than what they were the week before or the year before, like that, and get them moving forward, like Bellamy does,
Yeah.
then you can never say Bellamy's been in the club too long because he keeps striving for better and he keeps getting better out of his team. I mean, everyone's expected the Storm to go downhill when Cronk left and then when Slater left, and they're still one of the top teams in the competition. That's what he brings. But Brad Arthur isn't bringing that. Like, you're getting to the point now where he's had his chance. He's got entirely the squad he wanted. There's not a single player that's on his roster right now who he doesn't want there because he's had the opportunity to get rid of every single one that he inherited.
Mm-hmm.
So what he's got now is who he wants. That's the best he's won. He's had probably 2 to 3 years to sculpt this squad to what he wants. There is zero excuses for him, and there's zero excuses for Parramatta not being in the top 8. Doesn't matter what their squad is, okay? He's the coach. He gets to pick what he wants. We're seeing right now his capability is where the Parramatta Eels are currently placed. He's not any better than where they currently are right now. Parramatta now can see, okay, everything else has been done. The coach is now exposed. We know that he's part of the reason why we can't go that one step further. He may have got us out of that slump that we were in when Kearney was coach because everything was a mess then. So thank you, Brad, for that. But we're not a top 8 side. We need a coach who's going to take us to that next level and get us in there. If it means a roster overhaul, so be it. But the first place they've got to start this time around is with the coach because he's got what he wants and it's not working.
Yeah, and we're talking about a coach that is at the end of the road for having the chance to do what he said he was going to do when it came to Parramatta. It's a big sample size now. 2012 is when he started. Like, as you say, this is his squad. He's had all the time in the world to change it. We're talking about a guy that it's time. It's time for a change, and they just re-signed him to a long-term contract. It makes zero sense. It's a stupid mistake by Parramatta. No one else is looking at Brad Arthur. No one else is saying, oh, maybe we could get Brad Arthur from Parramatta. He's had his run. Maybe it's time for a change. Because to get excited of being 5 wins and 4 losses, coming out of an absolutely disgusting loss to the Melbourne Storm. I mean, how many coaches in the whole history of the game have been re-signed days after their team got thrashed by like 60 points? I dare say never. It's never happened, ever. And Parramatta Eels just did it. Congratulations.
As well as tabling a player who lost in that game and is their captain, tabling him a $650,000 a year contract the same week.
Yep.
A captain and coach, so we're both going to give, here's a contract for you to re-sign after getting dick 64-10.
It's like that movie Wag the Dog, where they come up with the slogan, you don't change horses midstream. It's like, they're locking themselves in to be a 50-50 team into the future. And it makes zero sense. And this is rugby league. This is what's so frustrating, because it's not that the salary cap doesn't level teams. It's the administrations are terrible, and there's no excuse for re-signing Brad Arthur. Like, why is nobody at the Parramatta Eels saying it? Maybe a change would be good. Just maybe. Like, what's the worst that can happen? They lose games by 60 points?
The worst that can happen is that they sign Trent Barrett to be coach.
Okay. Now, you make a fair point here. All right? You make a really fair point. I'm willing to say I'm wrong. First time ever, I am wrong.
But yeah, I mean there are generally good coaches out there that could get to take over that side, and they're a reasonably experienced side with a little bit of youth in there. Even someone like Neil Henry would be no worse. But I still think Anthony Griffin's the best coach out there that's not working.
Or Jeff Tuvey.
Tuvey as well.
Those. Yeah.
Yeah. Those two are the absolute top of the line as far as, unhired coaches who should be coaching an NRL side. Because you just know they would ship up that side. As I said, I think Parramatta's got a pretty decent forward pack. If you had someone pushing them harder and getting a bit more out of them, they could be absolute behemoths. But they're just not getting that extra bit out of them that I think a new coach would. I think we've seen enough of Arthur now to know that what he's getting out of the players is the maximum he's ever going to get out of them.
Yeah, and like you think about Parramatta is a real development area, okay? How many players has Brad Arthur developed that are better than average? Like, can you think of one? I can't.
Maybe one of the forwards, but it wouldn't be a development enough worthy of mentioning.
It's like, he's all right. Like that's about it. It's not like the Parramatta Eels have, over the time that Arthur has been there, have developed anybody that you would say is even within QE of State of Origin mention. I can't think of a single person that you would say, like, can you think of anyone?
It's only really Blake Ferguson. He's the only player in their current squad who's Origin worthy.
Yeah, and he wasn't developed by them,
No, that's right, sorry, yeah.
Yeah, it makes... I don't know what more they need to see out of Brad Arthur. I really don't know. And you look at their squad and you can say, well, this is a squad that kind of needs a little bit of a broom put through it, even if you're looking at the lower end of the talent that they've got. But the problem is that this is what Brad Arthur has developed at this team. These are his guys. And with all of these players off contract, are you going to now put this team in the hands of Arthur again to bring in another group of players that he might not have that ability to pick who is going to be better, to pick who can become better. So I just don't know why you commit to that going forward. Like, what was the contract for? It's for another 3 years.
2 years, so the end of 2021.
That means he's going to have been a coach there for nearly 10 years. Like, and is there anything to suggest that this is a guy who is a 10-year coach at the one club? We've not seen anything to suggest that.
No, not a thing. I just think he may be one of those, and we see him, one of those brilliant assistant coaches who just can't make the next move up to the head coach.
Yeah.
Maybe that's where his position is, but it's obviously not working as a head coach there. They really need to look at who's available off contract coaching wise. They also need to look at they've got to change their game plan as well. The times they've been successful has been because a winger's been doing a lot of hard work.
Yeah.
And that's a woeful idea for a game plan. Semi Radradra making big meters coming out of his own line and making breaks and doing all the work himself. It's like how Parramatta were constantly relying on Jarryd Hayne for all those years to do something. Throw him the ball and see what Hayne can do. And they brought Ferguson in for, as much as I kept saying it wasn't for that reason, that's kind of why they brought him in, because it's kind of been what's been happening. It's such a crazy concept for a game plan. You spend all that money on halves, and then you make you a winger or a fullback do all the bloody work. It just seems crazy.
And like if you look at them as a development team, right, and you consider they've got that big junior base, they've got a really big junior base, and we don't think about it because they don't develop the players very well at all. You should be able to attract the highest level of talent in the NRL to the club, and you should be able to just take them to the middle of the stadium and put their highlights on the screen in an empty stadium. Just say, you can be part of this. This can be your home ground. And the stadium is really, honestly, that impressive. And it's one of the highlight clubs in the competition. They should be a club that a lot of players want to go and sign for, and look at their roster and look at their coach and look at what they're aiming for. They're aiming for, like, let's make 8th place. They're not aiming high. This should be a team that when other clubs are talking about trying to get a Latrell Mitchell, the Parramatta Eels should be in a very rude position that very few other teams can get into that position because they've got all these players off contract. They've got the salary cap room that's open. How many top-of-the-line players are we hearing about considering Parramatta? None of them.
And it's always been that way too. In previous seasons, you never heard of too many big-name players going there. And if they were big-name players going there, they're at the tail end of their careers.
Or being paid overs.
Well, both even sometimes. That's the thing, though. It's been such a constant cycle for Parramatta and their fans that I don't think they've got over the hangover from winning the '86 grand final, and it hasn't helped when Sterling went down with his injury. They've been recycling halfbacks ever since. They've not had a single halfback since Sterling retired who's played at least 100 games wearing the number 7 jumper for the Eels since then.
That's incredible. And we could probably name at least half a dozen halfbacks that have been called the next Peter Sterling.
Yeah. And the thing, they've got to cut off from that. They've got to say, you know what? We were great in the 80s. Yes. Sterling was fantastic. Yes. He was very close to being an immortal. Okay. But that was 30 years ago. And we're a long way away from that now, and we're getting further away from it. We need to start thinking about now and the future and not keep harping back to what we did 30 years ago.
Exactly.
That's part of the problem, is they're still hanging on to the 80s when we're almost in 2020, crying out loud. It's nearly 40 years ago.
Yeah, and dare you say, sounds like they need to change a few things there?
They do. The whole club needs to clean out. The board, anyone who was involved with that club going over the cap in 2016 or whatever it was, anyone involved with that I'd get rid of every single person involved with that, because that was such a dumb, dopey thing, and it achieved zero for the club.
So broke the salary cap and went 13-11.
Yeah, they would have finished, if they hadn't have lost the points, they would have finished in 8th place on the ladder.
Whoop-de-doo. And
they would have scraped in.
Yeah, and like the following year was Brad Arthur's best year. They went 16-10. Like, and after that they went 6-18, which was last year. Like, that alone could have seen him getting fired.
Yeah, so what we saw there is that 2016, 2017, that was their premiership window. That was it. That little 2-year period there. That was when he finally had the team he wanted. He built them all up to how he wanted them to play, and they were playing the way he wanted them to at the best he could get them. And the best he could get them was essentially 8th and, was it 6th or something on the ladder, or 5th, you know. And then that window closed, and then they got the spoon, and now they're middle of the road again.
And they're happy with it.
It's just not good enough at this level anymore.
No.
You just can't keep doing that. Like, you can't be sitting there working towards, over 4 or 5 years, a premiership window of 2 years, and illegally getting there via a salary cap rort, to say the least, as well. And then once you got there and you finally got your salary cap sorted out and you're doing everything legally, you only have one crack at the title, and then you get the wooden spoon and you're back to square one again. How is that a system that's going to work?
It's just not. It isn't. And I don't know why they want to commit going forward to the same thing. It's so frustrating. I can't imagine what Parramatta fans are thinking. Like,
well, I'd hope that they're furious at it. I hope that they're furious at it, because I think it's nonsense that they're persevering with it. I don't know if it's the media, because as we know, the media likes to talk up a lot about Parramatta and all the time. You hear about King Gutho and everyone's hyping him up as a natural footballer. So like, he's a good player, fair enough, but I don't think he's deserving of half the hype he gets. And they're at it again with Reid Mahoney this year. Like, yes, he's having a good year. He's having a good year, just like Danny Levi is. And they're good players, but they're not, you know, Danny Levi is not being hyped up stupidly the same way that Mahoney is.
Yeah, and
I'll talk about it in the sensible sort of manner that he is. He's playing very well. Yes, that's where he's at. That's where both of them are. But Mahoney, all this praise has been heaped on him. He's just thinking, just settle down.
Exactly. Exactly. They need to chill. I don't look at the Parramatta Eels right now and think, ooh, they're on something special here. Like, I look at them and think, wow, it wouldn't take much for this season to go really, really bad. And look, that's the case with a lot of clubs. And I think of the Panthers. It's happened to Penrith. But if you lined up the talent that Penrith has versus the talent that Parramatta has, I dare say that the future is brighter for the Panthers than it is the Eels. If you just run the same teams out, even if you look towards the rest of the season, and Parramatta's well above Penrith on the ladder. But if you had to pick those sides, who would you say is going to have the better rest of the season? And I have zero faith in Penrith this season. I'm not saying this because I've got all the faith in the world that Penrith's going to turn it around. I really don't. I'm the complete opposite. I'm a pessimist.
I'd look at it this way, okay? If Craig Bellamy was off contract and you were to put him at either club, I think he'd get Penrith a premiership before he'd get Parramatta one.
Yeah.
That's definitely the way I'd look at it.
Yeah.
It's just, I don't know. Parramatta just, I made this mention in another podcast. They're like a comfy chair. They've found what they're comfortable with, and they're just going, you know what, this is cozy, this will do. We'll just stay here until the chair falls apart. And by the time the chair falls apart, it's too late. That's where they've got to. They're not constantly trying to find a better chair. They've just settled.
And they've been there for generations now. I mean, I remember when I was a teenager and most of my friends were Parramatta Eels supporters. And so I would go to Parramatta Stadium a lot. I used to love going to the station. You know, you'd get off there, you'd go and get some Maccas, then walk to the stadium. And watching Parramatta just doing what they're doing right now. And it hasn't really changed. And they've had a couple of spikes, but that's it.
Yeah. No, they've just been... it's just been a constant procession of not good enough for Parramatta. They had, 2 grand final appearances since since '86. It's
Yeah.
just not quite good enough.
Yeah, when your best achievement, especially in the salary cap era of the NRL, and you are one of the headline Sydney clubs, you should have no issues with money. You should have no issues with being a team that draws talent. You no issues with your juniors. Like they've got everything. They're very similar. In fact, they probably have a better position than the Panthers are in that they should be able to draw more fans. They've got a better stadium. They're more of a media darling, I would suggest, than the Penrith Panthers have ever been. They have no excuses to not be a headline team. And they're happy with just being 50-50. Like that, they're happy with that ceiling. They're happy with saying, oh yeah, we made a couple of grand finals, lost them, but that's fine. We made those grand finals. Remember the Hayne plane? Yeah, that was a good year.
Yeah,
that's it.
2009.
Yeah, happy with that.
It's that whole club from front office to back to on the field just needs a massive boot in the pants.
Yeah, they really do. And, you know, I think that they've finally got away from people deciding that they need old footballers on the board. I think we've maybe got away from that era at the Eels because that was so frustrating. And it really did lead to a lot of issues at the club.
Yeah.
But
and look, we're saying this. I mean, we both like to rip on Parramatta's performances, but at the same time, we love the game more. And you just want to see teams being the best that they can be because that brings out the best rugby league, and that's what you want to watch is the best footy.
Mm-hmm.
And at the moment, I think Parramatta's just doing themselves an entire disservice. And I generally feel sorry for Parramatta fans. I think they've got everything is set up perfectly, and yet they're doing everything they can to try and butcher it.
Yeah, and I've harped on it. I know I have, but I can't imagine what it would be like to have a good Eels team playing out of that beautiful stadium, that perfect stadium. It would be incredible. I can't even imagine how good it would be. So to see them commit to just being okay going forward and to looking to re-sign players who are just okay going forward, it's so frustrating. It makes you want to pull your hair out because I want them to be aiming for the pinnacle of the sport and they're just not.
Well, look, there is an upside, mate, and that is the West Tigers can just use that brand new ground as their home venue.
Well, it is one of their 15 home stadiums. So what was the hashtag they were using on Twitter? Like was it Our Jungle or something like that?
Yeah. That was the jungle that got completely deforested.
Yeah, look, then the hashtag just reminded me of like porno from the 70s. It's like what he's doing. But yeah, I can't believe it. I really can't. And that's it. That's all I've got to say about Parramatta.
Yep. Fully agree. Right now they're sitting at 8th on the ladder. That's the problem they've got. No team bounces back immediately with great success after being smacked like that. They're lucky that they've got 2 out of form teams they're coming up against, but the problem with out of form teams is they eventually do get a win.
Mm-hmm.
They've got Cowboys this week, Penrith next week, and
I wouldn't want to be playing. Look,
Penrith are possibly the most due team for a win and a change in form there is in the competition at the moment.
Yeah, and even the Cowboys, when they hook it up, they're an experienced team. They're a team that has winning experience, most importantly, and they're not going to be easy to beat.
And they're at home this weekend too.
Yeah, so there you go. They could be going in a couple of weeks' time, have a losing record, and be locked in for a future.
It's a tough one. So they've got Penrith at home, then they've got South at home at the new stadium there.
Wow.
And if Penrith find their form sometime in the next week or two, that could be a loss coming up for Parramatta there. Souths are going to be tough to beat. Sharks could have some of their players back by then, and that's at the Sharks' home ground there, and they've been surprising a lot of teams.
Mm-hmm.
Then they've got Brisbane and Canberra.
Yeah, and Canberra is playing very good. They played a lot better against the the Roosters than I expected them to.
Yeah.
And who was it? The Broncos, did you say?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the Broncos are another team that, because they're all so young at the Broncos, you're just waiting for it to click for them. And when it does, they're going to be horrible to play against.
That's right.
And I think there have been a lot of teams that have been like, wow, we got out of that one, thankfully.
And you look at who the Broncos will play before they play Parramatta. They got the Roosters this weekend, but then they play the Warriors and the Titans.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if they're close to being in good form, playing against those two sides are going to help them, further cement that form. And then they play against Parramatta after that. Parramatta's looking like they're in a situation now where if they don't win this week and next week, their season is effectively done, because that's pretty much the halfway mark. And they got too many tough games coming up. And I'm hesitant in saying that I think that they're going to be a top 8 side. I just don't see it.
No, I think at the very best, sneak in an 8th position. That's like at the very best.
We're seeing that the Dragons and the Broncos are both outside the 8 at the moment, as well as Penrith. I'm not sure Penrith's got enough in them to get into the finals. We'll see. But Brisbane and the Warriors are only 2 wins. Brisbane and the Dragons, they're 2 wins and 1 win outside of the finals race, respectively. So they're within striking distance. And Brisbane's done that on horrible form. They're still only 2 wins out. The Dragons are a good enough side to be in there. So it's Parramatta needs a massive form reversal, and I don't think they're going to get it from Brad Arthur anytime soon.
No, the only thing I'm really interested to see with this Parramatta team is once we've got a full season of them playing at home, how much they get out of playing at home at that stadium with the crowd completely on top of you. And
maybe that's the reason behind the contract extension. Oh, he didn't get to have a home ground last year, so let's give him another year with a proper full home ground season, and find another reason to put him in there.
Exactly, yeah. It's we need to give him the perfect season, and then we'll know.
Give him another 2 years.
Yeah, probably. Look, at the end of this contract, he's going to have been there for nearly a decade, and that is extraordinary for any coach over the history of the game. There's not a great deal of coaches that can say, oh yeah, I was at the one club for 10 years. And when you look at his record, wow.
Well, I look at the West Tigers when they had Tim Sheens as coach, and in 2011, 2012, mostly 2012 actually, the club hated him. And I mean, he'd made 3 final series since he'd been there in 9 years and won him a premiership.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, we're sick of him. And for all the right reasons. He was making wrong calls. He was buying in the wrong players. The cap was constantly at its limit all the time. We had very little wriggle room there. And more often than not, we're finishing 9th on the ladder all the time. Clubs attacked him. And the club went through a bit of turmoil, hiring wrong coaches and whatnot. But they come out the other side to where they are now, where they've actually got themselves a generally good coach. They had a clean out of the roster and the boardroom. And things are actually looking positive into the future. Whereas I just don't see that that's the situation at Parramatta. Maybe I'm not looking enough into the Parramatta situation, but I just don't see how anything they're doing at the moment is a positive move for their long-term future. It just looks like, let's just continue plodding along in 8th or 9th place.
Yeah, this looks like their ceiling.
Yeah, right. Like, with the current setup, it does.
I just don't see this lineup being able to move above being at the very edge of the finals. And they're not a top 4 side. They're definitely not a top 6 side. I can't believe they've locked into it. It really is perplexing to me. Yeah.
Well, it's I don't know. So I suppose we could talk aside from Griffin and Tuvey, what other coaches could they be looking at?
That's a good question.
Would Matt Elliott be an idea?
First of all, fuck you, all right? Oh, shut all this shit down. I
just got to throw that fish out there.
Yeah. I was just thinking about the 20 years that Matt Elliott coached Penrith. Oh, hang on, it just felt like that. There's no one else out there that really jumps out at me that you would say is an upgrade over average. I'm shocked that Griffin hasn't been employed yet. I really am.
Yeah.
I'm shocked that Tuvey hasn't been employed yet. And I think they're two really good coaches that are just waiting for. I don't even think they would jump at the first opportunity. I think they would jump at the right opportunity.
Oh, they definitely would, and they
Yeah.
deserve to. I mean, but the thing is, they could dive into any club and make it better in a few years.
Oh, definitely. Like if they decided to say, and I look at a team like, for instance, the Titans, who are in a bit of a not great situation, and they probably need probably 3 years. And Brennan's there, and he's a new coach, and he's got to be given time to do that himself. But just using them as an example, I think that if you signed either one of those coaches, they would be able to do that job. But I also think if you gave either one of those coaches, say for instance Newcastle, who also have to keep building towards something themselves, I think that they would probably by the end of the year look like a better side. Like I just think that they're good coaches. I think that they're going to give you something extra. And that's what you want from a coach. You don't want a coach that you say is just going to knock out the wins and losses, and then by the end of it, it'll be great if they've got a 50% record. And yeah, that's what Parramatta's looking at for their future.
I think what we I'll do some number crunching on this during the week, but I'm pretty certain that the one thing that is more important when it comes to attack and defence to winning premierships is good defence. And that's the thing that Griffin and especially Tuvey can bring to a club is a stiffer defence and a more reliable defensive system.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we've seen enough of Brad Arthur's coaching over the years to suggest that he's not quite there in that area. And that's why Parramatta's not quite there when it comes to the finals conversation, and they're not quite there when it comes to premiership conversation, and so on and so forth.
Mm-hmm.
You've got to get that defence sorted out. I mean, at the moment, they're the only team in the top 8 who's conceded 200 points or more this year. The next worst is Cronulla at 175. So they've conceded 32 points more than Cronulla have. And that's a Cronulla side playing busted.
Oh, they're a bits and pieces team at times. Yeah. Incredible what
even the next 3 teams below Parramatta on the ladder haven't conceded 200 points yet.
Mm-hmm.
And Newcastle's 160, Dragons 186, Brisbane 195. Yeah, it's just not good enough.
Not at all.
And sure, that might be. You could just say it's an isolated because they had that one big loss, but you shouldn't be having those big losses if you want to be a top 8 team.
Definitely, and losses like that are a bit of a canary in the coal mine as well. It's like, as you said, you put out the stat a few weeks ago, no team has ever conceded 50 points and won a premiership. That's one of them. The teams that concede 60 points, you're starting to get into the statistical, like the upper end of the statistical issues at clubs. Like once you concede 60 points, you've got some real problems. And what better time to re-sign your coach to an extended contract?
Yeah, I mean, they knew. I mean, they're playing Melbourne, okay? You know Melbourne's a top quality side. You know you've got to lift your game against them if you want to compete with them. But after Bellamy gave them a roasting as well, they knew even more. That team were going to respond because that's what he gets out of them. That's what he does. He wanted a response, and that's what he got. They knew that what they were in for there. And yet they still prepared that way and lost that game like that. It's unforgivable.
Yeah, but that's what they're happy with, apparently.
And we'll probably see, today they'll bring out the team changes and there'll be like 2 or 3 blokes that, they've reshuffled some deck chairs, 2 blokes are on the bench instead of starting, and next to no changes have been made. It'll just be more of the same, and you're just looking at going, do I pick them this week against the Cowboys? Who knows now?
I won't be. I'll be picking the Cowboys.
Well, I'm leaning that way.
Yeah.
It's I don't know. Parramatta's a side that should be doing so much better. They've got enough decent people there. If they had a good coach, they should be performing better. They shouldn't have these things where Then beating the Tigers one week by racking up 50, and then 3 or 4 weeks later they've let 60 in themselves against a different team.
Yeah, and
That
I
wild
always think of
inconsistency
it
is
as
just
a
acceptable.
natural resources test, and this is why when Penrith don't play well or they have down periods in their history, that it really upsets me, because just based on the natural resources that they have at hand, they should always be pretty damn good. Not world beaters all the time, but they should be at least one of those teams that, is in the race. And Parramatta is one of those teams. They really are.
This is the thing, though, with Penrith this year. Aside from last weekend's match, where they were just blown off the park in the first 15, 20 minutes, the rest of the game was pretty much as they've been playing all year, where they've been in the game. The last 63 minutes of the game against the Tigers last week, I think the Tigers won 6-4.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of how they've been going. It's not been anything inspiring in attack.
Mm-hmm.
And they've been in the games prior to that against Canberra. They got blown out a bit towards the end. They were right in there against South. They threw away the game against the Sharks and the Titans. They did everything they could to lose the game to the Tigers. They were only really outclassed against the Storm, and even then the Storm only put 32 on them.
Mm-hmm.
Penrith aren't far away from a win, but the fact that they're getting so much people looking at them going, man, they're so shit this year.
Mm.
It shows you that the expectations for that club within it and within the media and with fans is so much higher.
Yeah.
But when Parramatta's getting treated the way they are, people going, oh, yeah, but they're still in 8th place. It's sort of an uphill, sort of an upward inflection, sort of, oh, they're not doing so bad. And people are sort of going, because they sort of expect Parramatta to constantly finish midfield.
Yeah.
Even the club isn't projecting this image of, we want to be the best. They're projecting this image of, we're happy being in the middle.
And that's the thing.
That's got to change. The culture's all wrong.
What club wants to do that? Every single club should be saying we're aiming for the top. We're aiming for the very top. Not like we're aiming for 8th. Let's get locked in at 8th place. That's what we want. We want finals appearances every year, but in 8th spot. Because that's where the action is.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't understand why they would do it. And I don't know how Parramatta fans would feel about it, because I'd be furious. That's the sort of thing like when Penrith would re-sign Matthew Elliott, and you're like, what do you want from this club? What do you want from the team? What do you want from the performances, that you look at what we're doing on the field and you say, yeah, that's all right. That'll do.
Yeah, it's... I know they've got some head scratching to do, that's for sure.
Definitely.
So I was going to punch out a few quick stats here about the Eels before we wrap it up, okay?
Okay, yeah, hit me with something.
Under Brad Arthur's reign, okay, so this is only in the years 2014 to right now.
Yeah.
Who do you think's been their highest point scorer?
Ooh, this is a really good one. Okay, the highest point scorer in that time. Wow. Oh, wow. How dare you? This is a really difficult one. I've got no idea.
Semi Radradra.
No way.
310 points.
Who's next on the list? Have you got that?
Yeah, Mitch Moses, 242 points. Moses is still 68 points behind Semi.
Oh, that's terrible. That's absolutely terrible.
A try scorer is the highest point scorer there.
Yeah.
Radradra had 77 tries and 1 goal.
Wow.
Who do you reckon runs second to Semi Radradra for most tries for Parramatta in that time?
Most tries. Okay, just at a guess, I'm going to say Bevan French.
Yes, he had 35. He's got less than half of Semi's.
Yeah. Because to be fair, earlier on, I looked at his first season, and I was pretty surprised at how well he was doing, like his first full season. So that's why I thought it might be him. But then again, I'll go for the second. Have you got the second top try scorer?
Or third?
Oh, third. Yeah.
Yeah, I've got them all here, mate. They've got two others there, actually, who've scored at least 30.
Okay. The top try scorer. Oh, man. I should have kept my mouth shut. Michael Jennings, maybe?
Yeah, Michael Jennings has got 31.
And I feel like he's hardly been there for that long.
74 games.
Okay, yeah, I mean, he's not been there for that long.
And fourth on that list is Jared Hayne.
Oh, no. Wow, that's terrible. That's really bad.
And how many players do you think under Brad Arthur in that 2014-2019 period have had at least 50 wins? Just the number.
50, okay. 50 wins. I'm gonna say none.
Two.
Tim
Manners got 52 and Corey Norman had 51. And they both lost more than that.
Wow. Lucky they got rid of Corey Norman, hey?
Yeah, they're the only two players also under Brad Arthur's reign who have been there for at least 100 games. Manners had 110, Norman had 107.
Jeez.
And they've got Manu Ma'u and Mararoa both on 98.
Those stats, when you look at those, they're the stats that you should be getting out of a club that is like bottom of the ladder. Like an old school bottom of the ladder, like Western Suburbs Magpies bottom of the ladder stuff.
Yeah, I must admit, I was a bit surprised that their top point scorer over the last 5-6 years was just a bloke who scored tries.
Yeah, and to be fair, he scored a lot of tries, but it should never be a try scorer. Never.
It just shows you how much they relied on one player, and he's a winger of all players.
Well, how much did you say? How many points did you say he had?
310. He scored 77 tries in 87 games.
I mean, I think of someone like Jared Croker at the Canberra Raiders. He'd get close to that in one season.
310. I think he did one year. Was it 2016?
Because I know that 300 points in a season is like you're a statistical outlier.
Yeah, 2016, Croker scored 296 points.
Yeah, so, he's getting close in one season. So that means that he's a very, very top point scorer, but it just shows that they haven't really had a goal kicker for more than... You'd think that they would have had one for like 3 seasons or even 4 seasons in that run, but they just haven't.
Yeah, it's... they're not great stats.
No, they're terrible. They're really, really bad. Wow. Poor Eels fans. At least they get to sit in a nice stadium watching this crap.
That's all right. Just looking at it. So they've had 14 players in that period who have played 50 games or more.
And all 14 beaters.
14 and 56 who have played less than 50.
And who you think of, and I think we talked about this earlier, how many players have they recruited from outside the club that you could say were top-line players during Arthur's time? Like, you've obviously got Ferguson this year, who is...
Kieran Foran.
Foran, who, let's be fair, was a top-of-the-line player when they got him. You couldn't have thought that everything was going to happen as it did. So that's right. Let's be fair there. Michael Jennings.
Yeah, Anthony Watmoe.
Watmoe, who's... I thought he was bad signing at the time. Got injured, though, and it just didn't work out.
Tony Williams? I can't remember how he was going before he came to Parramatta. Was he?
How many games did he play, Tony? Because he was on a big contract.
5.
Brilliant. Yeah.
Who else was there? Just have a look through the list here. Let's see, Michael Gordon.
Yeah. He's a good player.
Jared Hayne he brought back.
Jared Hayne, yeah. And you would think that would have been a good move, and it just didn't work out. He played all right.
We've got the obvious one, Mitch Moses.
Oh, superstar. That's why Brisbane wants him, apparently.
Yeah. That's right. There's absolutely no foundation to that rumour whatsoever, other than someone's trying to make a name for themselves with a rumour. That's about as believable as, me getting a call up to Penrith next week as captain. I'm the only person in the country that isn't, but I still don't like my chances.
Yeah. Well, we went from having like half a dozen captains to one.
Yeah, pick the
And
wrong one, but still.
yeah, exactly.
You had
That's
all
kind
the
of
options in the world, you still chose the wrong one.
It's just like statistically, you would have thought they would have picked a better one, but they picked the worst one.
Yeah, they watched that big time. But anyway,
Danny.
this is about heaping misery on the Eels, so we won't
Yeah.
we'll get into more Penrith bashing again.
Well, I feel like we're going to get to a point with Penrith season, and as I've said, I'm not expecting them to turn things around. It would be nice if they did. I just don't expect them to.
No. The end
But
of the
we're going
year,
to get to some loss where they're going to play the Storm or the Roosters or something, and they're going to lose by probably 60 points. And I'm going to flick you a message and say, Andrew, I need you to fire it up because I have something to say.
I'll do the intro and then I'll just sit back and listen to you going nuts.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, at the end of season review, if it doesn't get any better for the Panthers, it's just going to be me talking to you and you're very, very drunk and very, very angry.
Yeah. Yeah.
I should have see you fuck.
Or as I like to call it, Tuesday through Friday.
At least it's good to know that you take a break over the weekend.
Well, you don't want to ruin your liver completely.
You'll have some sort of quality of life when you hit 40.
Exactly. I want to live into my 50s.
What's the Parramatta Premiership by then?
Well, I'm just waiting for the next Peter Sterling to come along. I really did think that it was like, Tim Smith. I really did. Thought he was the man.
Or Sandow, or Mitch Moses, or... Wow, this could go on for a while.
Chris Thorman.
Wow.
John Simon.
Will Smith.
Yeah. I was ready for the William.
Luke Kelly.
Oh, I forgot about Luke Kelly. Wow, he was a feature player for him. Far out. Eels fans.
We do feel sorry for you, Eels fans.
We really do. Really? Honestly do. Like, I'm not even saying it. I know people sometimes think I'm always being sarcastic, but I really do. I feel sorry for Parramatta fans.
Yeah. We prefer to rip on players, not fans.
Yeah. Yeah, because fans just want what we all want.
Yeah. They want to see their team going well, and they want to see the game going well, and Parramatta's not delivering it either.
No. Not at all.
So you've got our condolences, Parramatta fans. It's not all about heaping shit on you.
Even though the last, 45 minutes to an hour has been.
Sort of, yeah.
After listening to this, I'd expect Parramatta fans to be like, season's over, I'm not watching them anymore. Yeah. And to be fair, it'd probably be good for you.
Probably good for the club too, because if you send them a good message.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll wrap this one up on that high note. And, catch us on YouTube. It's going gangbusters on there. So go over there and subscribe and like all the videos and play them through while you're going out doing the gardening or whatever. Mm-hmm. Be sure to subscribe to us on iTunes and give us a 5-star rating on there. And if you want, give us a review, something awesome about,
Really nice. Yeah, say something like you won heaps and heaps of money by listening to the podcast. Something weird like that.
Yeah. I can't add anything extra to that. That's taken up all my ideas. But throw in something like that. That'd be fantastic. Tell
us about your wonderful website, Andrew.
Yes, Rugby League Project. Well, I mean, I've spoken about this heaps. Go on there if you want to find out stats and history and team lineups of every sort of game everywhere, adding tons of stuff. Mm-hmm. I got asked not too long ago in a private message on Twitter how much I thought the website was completed, what percentage. Mm-hmm. And I think they were assuming it's something around the mark for about 70 or 80%. And I said it's probably around the 30 to 32% mark.
Yeah.
They're a bit shocked. Why is it so far from completion? I mean, there's probably close to at least 10,000 games that need to be added in or updated.
Wow.
There's at least 5,000, 50. Oh, I can't remember now. So many frigging games. All those English league games since 1895 have got to be put in there yet.
Yeah.
They had seasons with 500 games every year for 100 odd years. Mm-hmm. It's fair whack. So it dwarfs the NRL side. So there's so much more to be done there. So I need to work on it full time. If you want to help me do that, go to my Patreon page, www.patreon.com/rlproject, and you can make
can
a
I just
donation
say,
there.
can I just say, look, it's important to feed your kids. It really is. But what are they going to do when they become adults? Are they not going to have their stats available? So you need to think about what your priorities should be. So they can have rice. You can live on rice for a long time. So just give the kids rice and put all your money into the Patreon for a rugby league project.
Well said. Well said.
Yeah.
As we found out, in the last episode, I mean, I just feed my daughter whiskey.
Well, she seems to like it.
She's fine.
She's fine. As she says, you're the greatest dad ever.
She yum. She's fine. So look, go on there, put some money in the Patreon. You can donate as little as $1 a month. And all I'm asking for is around about $3,000 to $3,500 a month on there would be all I need to cover all site costs and to work on the site full time. It sounds huge, I know, but I've got nearly 3,000 Twitter followers, and if all of those put in $1 each, bang, job done. It doesn't sound so big when you look at it that way. So,
just $1.
Here she is.
Now I have 2 lipsticks on.
So
Right.
I have 1 lipstick of sparkles. Now I've got 1 lipstick of Pinkie Pie.
Okay, fantastic. Amazing. I agree, it is amazing. Whatever that was. She's off.
It was pretty amazing, to be fair.
Yeah. I think she found her lip gloss. And she's got
nice.
16 layers of each on there, so she's talking like she's got the whole heap of collagen in her mouth. She doesn't want her lips to touch.
Oh, man.
Learning about beauty already.
Yeah, isn't that wonderful?
On that rather cheery and cute note, we will wrap it up. Also, before we do, don't forget, League Freak has a website as well full of brilliant opinion pieces and stuff going back to the 1950s, I believe.
So good. I'm trying to. I think one of my first ones that I could find from, because at one stage I had to repopulate it from old articles from a site. I think I got one on there from 2004, and it's crazy to see how much I've written about the game. It's like you'd think that I'd get to the point where it's like I've got no more opinions left, but they're just flowing out of me.
Yeah. Now we can't even bother typing. We just talk them instead. Because it's just easier.
Look, I like to save my fingers now.
Plus, we get that people can't be asked reading anymore. So you just tell it to you, and you can just listen to it, and then
exactly. And you don't have to read my spelling mistakes and things like that. I mean, I capitalised rugby and league. How annoying is that?
That makes sense.
Yeah, but that's the best thing about running your own site. You're the boss.
So you make the rules.
Yeah, it's like, you know what we do here at leaguefreak.com? We do whatever the fuck I say. And it's the best part about it all.
That certainly is.
Yeah, how good is that as a promo for my site? Just coming off like an arrogant prick.
I'd say, would anyone be surprised by that?
No, not at all.
That's what makes it work, mate.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. Well, you know, someone has to fill that gap in the market, don't they?
Yeah. Like,
I feel like you're going to say something. I feel like you're going to say something.
Let's go back to something about the mainstream media, which I won't get into.
Yes.
But yes. You do it in a more entertaining manner.
I could hear your brain working, thinking,
how do I say it? Not say it.
I don't have a lawyers. Oh, jeez, need someone to retain it before I say that. Yeah.
I think I reeled myself in rather well there.
Yeah, you did good. You did real good.
But I will say, Bryden's Lawyers, if you want to get on board as a sponsor, please get in touch.
Please.
We might have to work for you.
Please, it's just a matter of time.
Come to us before we need to come to you.
Yes.
On that note, we'll wrap it up for a third time here. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. Retweet it and share it around everywhere that you can on Facebook and on Twitter, and we'll catch you next time.
Goodbye, Australia.